Hi, my name is Eileen Burns and I'm owner of the Spiritual Marketing Club and Stress Coach Training. Now in this video I'm going to talk about a little bit about branding and marketing and the things that you should consider when actually creating a brand for your business. So basically I'm going to talk a little bit about what branding is, and some of the mistakes people make with branding, and specifically what spiritual businesses should consider when they're doing a brand. But I'm also going to share a little bit about me and what brought me in this journey and what sort of makes me qualified in this area. Well, I have been studying healing, holistic well-being and spiritual well-being for just under 30 years, just about 30 years. And I also have been self-employed as a healer, coach and therapist for the last 20 years. And my business began and is still very, continuing to be growing on online marketing. I started using online marketing over 20 years ago when I had my own website. I had so many different things. I had online products. I had an online health directory and holistic information service, and I also sold mail order products while I built my business up. Now at that point it was called the Worlds of Health, right? And slowly and quickly it changed into what I really wanted it to do, and as I started to get better around some of the health challenges I had, and I started doing more stress management, and that was going out and teaching stress management to the health, education and charity sector, including meditation. Now, when I first started my business, I was in quite a challenging situation. I was someone that had spent most of the last 7 years at times predominantly bedbound and housebound. I had done some training in between this and before this, but I had lots of rare medical health challenges. Now, I was on a very low income because I had been in a situation previously that I was quite young, but I had a situation where I'd been a student and I'd also previous employers who didn't pay my stamp. So when I was sick, I didn't get proper sickness benefits. So I was on a very low income. And I also had extreme health challenges that meant I had a lot of allergies, food allergies. I had to have a gluten-free diet, lactose-free diet, and lots of other things. And if you think a lot of these health products are expensive today, well, I can guarantee you they were a lot more expensive then. So I was in quite extreme challenges, right? And there was me trying to start a business. And the reality for me was no banks would give me any sort of loan because I was classed as a high risk, because I had a very rare medical challenge from childhood that no one could predict what would happen. And it meant I was not basically, there was no security, and especially with the amount of years that I'd been very ill. So that was a huge frustration for me, because in those days, you would have to spend a lot of money in marketing. Today, we are very, very fortunate. We can actually start our business in many ways. If we really need to start with absolutely nothing, look at Facebook, look at social media. And this is one of the things I always think people forget about how lucky they are today, okay? So then a lot of your marketing was, you could do online marketing websites, but there was very few people doing that, okay? So first of all, that was the case. Most advertising was maybe newsletters or online magazines, and the smallest advert would normally be at least £100, okay? That was for one advert, and just a weekly advert. So I had to think out the box. Now, just before I started, I'd been wanting to have a business for a long time, but I had been so unwell. And I started to learn about web design. And then it was more techie skills. It was more knowing about coding. It wasn't like what it is now, builders and very easy templates. It wasn't anything like that. You would spend weeks coding and creating a site. So one of the ways that I saved money was being able to create my own website. But I was also someone who had previously, when I'd left school, I had went into design, fashion design and clothing design, so I had actually a good eye. And I was also came from a family business background, so I had a lot of skills that they all helped me to use and be as resourceful as I could. Now, one of the interesting things was that happened at that point in my life. Even though I was on a very limited budget, I was living in a rented one-bedroom flat. I was someone who had to sleep between 12 and 16 hours a day just to function, right? I had severe mobility issues, which meant all my work had to be really planned out. And there was me, I created this business, and because the brand of it was so powerful, it's called The World of Health. But the reality was that I was inundated by people thinking that I was a huge company. The branding was so strong, I got it looking so professional, that what actually happened, I started to attract all these people who thought I was a huge company. So what happened, every day I would get at least 10, sometimes 20, 30, I had to put the phone off from investors, people looking for my marketing department, my accounts department, the amount of people that turned up at my door looking for this company, and there was me, sometimes in my pajamas. And it was quite embarrassing. It was one of those things that, you know, it's great to have big ideas and it's great to think big, but one of the things that I realised, and it took me, you know, a few years to realise that I was, in many ways, I was trying to create something that I didn't have the health to sustain, right? And a business can, you know, die and not survive just as much if it can't sustain the sort of, how can you say, the demand for certain things and the way that the business starts to move forward. And for me, it was becoming a huge headache. Loads of things happened, quite really bizarre things happened that were very, very challenging. But it was very interesting because I recognised quite early on that I could create something and make it look professional. And that continued. I started to get a lot of people and therapists who asked me to do their website or help them with their marketing and even with their business, and that continued up till today. But along that path, I had my own journey. I was someone who really, really invested in my training and my own health and well-being and my spirituality because of the extreme challenges. I didn't have a relationship, I didn't have children, and my life was still, even though I created something and I was living some sort of purpose, I still had a lot of limitations. And I was one of those people that tried so many different therapies and wasted a lot of money. And one of the things that I also invested really, really highly was learning about marketing. I spent at least 10 to 15 hours, sometimes 20 hours a week learning about marketing because I knew that I needed a lot of physical downtime because of my body, and I didn't have other things. I couldn't go out and with friends a lot. I couldn't go out to the disco. I couldn't do lots of things that most people take for granted. So I used my time as effectively as I could. So one of the big things was I learned about SEO, and I got really good at that point, SEO, and I got really good high rankings in my site and traffic. So that was one of the first things that I started to develop. But along my path, there was two polarities in my business. So one aspect of my business was I attracted a lot of work in the charity and health sector, right? The other sector was the corporate sector that I was trying to aim for, but I never ever seemed to really get any work. Nothing seemed to ever, if I got offered it, I couldn't do it, or when I did do it, it was stressful, and it did not suit my disposition, didn't suit my personality, and it certainly didn't suit my disabilities, my health challenges. So I was someone had invested crazy amounts of money, and I did work for charities, and in return they would put me through lots of training. And there was me with all these, you know, tens of £1,000s worth of training behind me. And I was getting work in the charity sector, but I kept focusing on the corporate because I'm looking at what I've invested and thinking, even what my professional insurances was. At one point, my insurance was £2,000 a year, and I had all my professional membership costs, so it was a lot of money, and I was only able to work part-time. So I kept thinking, right, high end, I should be looking for the high-end clients, right? But I did not see a really important thing, and it took me quite a few years to see what actually had happened in my business and where I was going wrong. I had always had a strong interest in archetypes, and was fascinated by that type of work, particularly because I'd studied psychotherapy, psychology and counselling things. And I had kind of looked into it, a wee bit and about in relation to branding and marketing, right? But it wasn't till I did a course with a friend of mine now, we're thinking about 7 years ago, maybe nearly more now. The both of us decided to do this one specific archetypal branding course, right? And I had been diving in and out of others, but I decided to do this course, and it really made me look at my own gifts and see myself in a completely different way. And I had always believed that most marketing that was getting used in the coaching and healing therapy industry was not aligned with most healers and spiritual coaches, maybe not life coaches or mental health coaches, but are well-being coaches, but spiritual coaches, it was not always aligned with what they believed was a core value of theirs. And I just couldn't get into this sleazy sales and this fake it till you make it. It just did not resonate because I just didn't think it was very truthful. So what happened was when I'd done this course, it was actually quite interesting because, first of all, when I found out that my main archetype was the caregiver and the nurturer, I actually wanted to deny it. I didn't want to have that archetype. I wanted to have another archetype. So I think that's an initial reaction for a lot of people. There was some elements I could, okay, I could say yeah, right? But it opened up a lot of core wounds because at the time I was getting to an age as well that I knew that I was never going to ever have children. And so that brought up, because the very mothering, caring nature within me, and I'm fantastic with children. One of the big areas of my work was children. I get asked to do loads of work with children. And something, at the time I was doing different courses and something clicked. I was always, from a child, fantastic at helping my friends and other people around about me see their gifts and help them make a career out their unique gifts and help them see their strengths, right? And even when I was helping people with their stress and their anxiety and their health and well-being, it was all based on I wanted people to feel empowered and to be able to do what they love to do. Because even though I had very extreme physical and health challenges and a lot of rare things happened to me, I always bounced back because I was doing things that I loved. I mean, even at one point in my 20s, I had threatened eye loss. One of my eyes, they were concerned that I was going to lose my eye. And what kept me going was this passion for the things that I was interested in. And even in the last 20 years, it's been, my medical history is quite crazy, to be quite honest. I've had so many complex, strange things like mercury poison, then not being diagnosed for late stage Lyme's disease to the last 4 or 5 years. Lots of really odd things happened to me. And so I had all these complex issues, and my life was not that anyone's life is ever an average life or a normal life, but a lot of things that most people take for granted, that it just wasn't part of my life. So I knew that no matter what I was going through, I could still live a purposeful life and a life full of passion and be really being of service. And even the last 4 or 5 years, I actually developed, after a period of sepsis, I started to develop extreme noise sensitivity that disabled me so much that even people coming into the house was extremely painful. So I had to limit who could come in. I couldn't have people with phones on. My work, trying to do work, was really challenging, right? So I'd ask people on calls to reduce the feedback. I had to put something in my ear to reduce the sound. And that was just one example of the sort of disabilities that I've found my way around about because I've been so passionate about this. And I wanted to make sure that you, people like you, were able to live your purpose and to do it in a more healthy way and an easy way, because one of the biggest things that I see with particularly a lot of spiritual businesses, that they are never focused about the money. They're completely motivated by passion and purpose, and often their own wounding, and they really struggle with charging, and they can find themselves in situations also dealing with a lot of clients who, for example, even clients like myself, who spent tens of thousands of pounds on people and, you know, still weren't getting to the root of the problem. So one of the things that I noticed in my own journey, okay, which was, investing heavily in this industry, was that often the most gifted, highly skilled therapists and healers actually were not financially successful, and they were very modest. They did not have much confidence, or they just were not good at business and marketing. They had no concept of that. And often those who were great at the business or marketing side or had a lot of money to invest weren't always that great, but they were successful. And it was just to do with perhaps mindset, or the way that they brought themselves and their branding and marketing was across. And when I saw that, and I realised that my main archetype was a nurturer, it was like a light bulb moment. It made me realise why all these different types of charities, it was so much easier to get that type of work. I had always been so focused on my training, and of course there were certain types of training I would have never got into certain organisation if I didn't have the level of qualification. But one of the things that it wasn't till I actually had to give up that work, because I became housebound, that a lot of charities were begging me to try. Oh my goodness, is there nothing we can do? I couldn't do the work. They all said to me, Eileen, you've got such a caring nature. You make people feel as if they belong in a group, and it was interesting. So a lot of the feedback that was coming back to me was really about my archetypal traits and all other things about me that made me, right? And I realized that about 7 years ago that I needed to start changing how I marketed my business, particularly aspects of my business where it was more one-to-one, okay? And one of the things is that sometimes also in this work, as healers particularly, our spiritual teachers, it's a constant, like everything, it's a constant growth. And who is my ideal client 1 year is maybe not going to be an ideal client the next year, or 3-5 years from now. And it's an evolvement, but there's core things about us that remain the same, right? There's core things that are with us from the very beginning. And a brand, if we look at what a brand is, right, what is a brand? A brand is basically something that identifies your business, your products and service from someone else, right? And your marketing is basically the way that you kind of promote or connect with your audience, the way that a tangible way for them to see how you can help them, okay? It's the communication, it's the relationship building, okay? And to have a powerful brand makes marketing so much easier. And when you get a powerful brand, and a brand that is perfect for you and represents your business and your services and your solutions, it's actually so much more cost effective. One of the things, I've changed my brand throughout the years for different reasons because the business changed, but most of it through that time has always been strong brands. And one of the things that I always get commented on was, oh my goodness, you know, Eileen, see if I'm forgetting, what is her name again? Is it Irene? Then I see your brand, and I remember what your brand looks like, and I look for a card, I look for something, or I scroll, even now scroll through Facebook to see your visuals, because it's very clear what it is, right? Now, I use a logo that might, people see in the Spiritual Marketing Club, it's a logo from the rest of my brand. And the reason I do that is just to keep things simple. There's a reason I have for that. But what I want you to think about is a brand is, if you are a healer, coach, or therapist, and you are offering the services, and part of your coaching programs or whatever you're offering is part of you. Part of you needs to be in that brand and in that marketing, because it's your energy, it's your vibration. Okay, you're part of the solution, right? And also the energy of the solution. But there is quite a few mistakes I see a lot of, you know, healers and coaches and therapists make mistakes with. And one is they, first of all, choose colours they just like, right? And they don't think about their audience needs and what their audience is actually getting from them. So the colours in the marketing has to represent the energy of what the solution you're offering, okay? Has to come through as an energy. But what happens, a lot of people are attracted to colours that are not necessarily the colour of their energy, right? So that's one thing, right? So people, I've studied colour therapy, colour psychology, colour analysis, colour healing, and there's slight differences between them all. And what I see sometimes people try to use colour healing in their marketing, but you have to be careful how you use that, because it depends on what you're trying to achieve, and some people get confused with what their actual brand is supposed to represent, what their marketing is supposed to represent. So it's always your marketing and your branding is the connector. The brand is what makes you easily stand out, and if someone is looking through fast feeds of information, you're going to stand out. It's going to be easier for them to remember, okay? And one of the other big mistakes people make in relation to a brand is their logo. They make mistakes with their logo. And the biggest thing is not maybe the shape, but it's the amount of colours or the amount of detail. A logo is supposed to be so simple that a child in many ways would understand what it's representing, right? It's supposed to be simple. But a lot of, I'm not really sure why, I think people are not really sure what a logo is, but a lot of people get the hire in who are supposed to be logo designers or graphic designers, and they're not really logo designers. They're actually creating like a picture. It's like a picture, it looks more like a picture, a story, rather than an actual logo, right? And the problem you have when you create something like that is that it's not easy. It doesn't always fit well on everything. Your logo should be easy, that it'll sit on your website, it'll sit on your copy, on your graphics, on memes, on videos, and it looks professional and it represents you. It's easy to sit on. And normally we'd get something that you could maybe, so for example, in my Spiritual Marketing Club, I tend to use more the gold logo, but if I have a gold background or something that's very like that, I will use a white version of that logo. And as the same, I use the same logo in other areas of my business. I've got a stress coach training, and I use a white or a sort of jade colour, or sometimes like kind of a dark green, and it's the same logo, but it's just slightly different colours so that it can represent. If you have all these different colours, then it may not look, it just looks like a picture, right? It won't sit correctly, and also it can be too much for the eye, right? So these are small things that are big things in branding and marketing. And one of the things that I would say, a lot of people, when you've got a limited budget, the last thing you want to do is your branding. But even if you can't define your colours and get your colours right at the beginning, that makes a difference, because you are producing content with similar colours. You stand out. And yes, sometimes your business might have to take on a different energy for whatever reason. I changed my stress coach training recently because I felt that it had to, always felt that there was something about it was too soft. It had to be more stronger to represent, my training and someone is an established, and I say, you know, in my industry, and someone that has done the proper training, is well qualified. I wanted to give my training school a more solid sort of energy to it. So I brought in more darker greens. And one of the things that we have to remember with branding and marketing is that often, sometimes the more simple, and how can you say, not just unique, but it's like, to me, it's like everything in your marketing and branding has to be an aspect to you. If you're a healer, particularly, if you're a healer, you are, everything about your work is vibrational and energetic and so many capacities. And I don't mean, when people talk about vibration, sometimes people in alignment, they just talk about, well, if you have to raise your alignment. That's not what I mean. And what I mean is, everyone has a mixture of different things. You are a mixture of different things, and it's like you've got your own potion, your own secret ingredients. And we have to be able to represent some of that. And if you've got a powerful brand, you don't have to be visually there all the time, right? But there's an energy of you coming through. Now, I'll give you an example where my branding has really supported me, right? So the last 2 years, I had complex issues to do with, I've got complex issues to do with my teeth. It's just a reality. And unfortunately for me, I was breaking plates and teeth all the time. And I was spending large chunks of the last, it's maybe actually even back as 3 years, chunks where I couldn't go online because I actually had missing teeth. That was my reality. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it was my reality. And I couldn't, it was very complex for me to get plates, and it was taking time to get them built. So I couldn't obviously turn up on video or doing Facebook Lives doing, you know, with missing teeth, right? Especially when it's your front teeth. So my brand is still strong enough that, because I've got good branding, I've still got posts going out, I've got still other things, and I can do things with my marketing without having to visually turn up. And that's been really helpful for me. And one of the things that I think, it can be very easy when people are teaching you about branding and marketing. They teach you from their perspective, right? And their experience, how they've built their business. But everyone is unique, right? And even though, of course, there's certain core things in every business that you need to do to make it strong, in every and your brand to make it strong. But the thing is, every business is different, and some people are not very good at communicating. Some people are not great in camera. Some people are not great at networking. So your brand and your marketing can actually help you in that area. Because I work with a lot of different types of coaches, healers and therapists, and I work with a lot of people who are actually very introverted, and that's part of their style. So certain things in their marketing, they just, they don't want to be doing that, but they can still make a place in the market. They can still sell their products and services. And that's how a powerful brand can really help you in your business. And to me, it's one of the things that in the long run, if you get right at the beginning, can save you so much money, because you stand out from the crowd, you look more professional, and it's easy for people to remember you. I think what we forget as sellers, that people are seeing so many products, they're seeing so many services, they're seeing so many people, that they need things that are going to be easy in the memory, things that are going to trigger the memory bank. And that's what good branding and good marketing does. I hope you found this helpful. If you would like more information about some of my services or help in creating a powerful brand, you can get me on www.spiritualmarketingclub.com. Have a great day. Bye for now.